What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Joint Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Shanti Stewart, and today we're talking about the national championship. Let's get it.
Lock my phone, put it back down. Let's try it again in the morning, bro.
I don't want it to jeopardize how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Because you are insane.
We got the news that Tonka is staying. Thank God, finally some good news.
So this game delivered, I thought, the perfect way to end the season for college football. This was a game where I thought we saw high-level football being played across the board. I thought you saw Indiana, who had been the best team all year in college football. You go look at what they did in terms of their schedule and who they played and how they beat teams. They dominated the teams they were supposed to dominate, and they beat the good teams that were on their schedule. They left no stone unturned, and they left no question unanswered. Miami, on the other hand, a team that got hot late. And when I mean late, I mean literally from the time they got into the playoffs. They heated up all the way up into the national championship game. You're talking about a defense that had dominant forces on it. Messidor, Ruben Bain, Keontae Scott, and an offense that had found its way. You saw an offensive line that for Miami was really the difference in a lot of their games throughout these playoffs. And you saw them have their moments, and you saw Indiana have their moments as well. And this was a great way to end the season. I thought Fernando Mendoza showed us some of what made him the Heisman Trophy winner and what will make him the number one overall pick in this year's upcoming NFL draft. You saw the leadership qualities. You saw the ability to adjust. Indiana, I thought Indiana saw that. I think the one thing that made me like smirk was that Indiana realized really quickly this is not the defenses we played in the previous two rounds. This is not Alabama. This is not Oregon. This group is a bit different, and they showed it pretty early on that first drive. They took it upon themselves to make sure Fernando Mendoza felt their presence. They had no problems hitting him at, sometimes kind of late. Some things you could have been flagged for, but they made it a point to show Indiana like, hey, look, if you leave your quarterback in harm's way, we're gonna make you pay for that. And you saw Indiana adjust. You saw the passing game go from the long developing routes to quick game. Get the ball out quick. Say we need you on the field, and we're gonna have to be able to run the ball with him being black. And that's what they were able to do. They were able to lean on that ground game that allowed things to free up for them. For Miami, on the other hand, my biggest worry was Carson Beck and how he would handle that Indiana pressure. Well, what they decided to do was do what they've been best at this entire playoff run, which is run the ball with Mark Fletcher and that offensive line. Mario Cristobal, being a former offensive lineman, made sure that group was one of the best groups on that team. And that group was the staple as to what pushed them forward to all the way to the national championship game. So no surprises there. But you saw an unstoppable force versus the immovable object, and I believe we got the best of what we could have hoped for to end the season. This game boiled down to your best players making plays. You look at the way Fernando Mendoza called game on that scramble for a touchdown. That moment is like it's a storybook. It's a movie-esque moment. It's like if you ever watch Friday Night Lights, that Mike Winchell scramble to end that game in that movie. It was like that, except he did it. He finished the job this time. It like remind you somewhat, show you shades of that John Elway run he had in the Super Bowl later on in his career. Like it felt like that. I look at what Miami was able to do with Mark Fletcher in their ground game. I was very surprised. I think it showed a lot of what maybe like I showed a lot of my frustration I had with Miami for the majority of the year, knowing that like, dude, y'all have several groups on this team that are really good, really damn good. The offensive line, the defensive line. I think the receiver room is pretty solid. Malachi Tony. What a statement to put at the end of your true freshman season. Hometown hero. Something that we don't get to see a lot of in today's college football because of the NIL, because of the transfer portal. Hometown hero, stays home, helps turn this thing around, gets his team to the national championship game, and puts forth a phenomenal performance against the best defense aside from his own. like these were great elements. It made for great storytelling. I feel like everybody within the sports industry got a great treat in terms of how you're going to be able to fit the narrative about how Indiana goes and wins their first national title. Fernando Mendoza being from the area, also getting a chance to play against the team he grew up watching and didn't get an offer from, even a chance to even be a walk-on. So I think everything about this game was magical, but we gotta dig a little bit deeper. No matter how you slice it, all roads lead back to the quarterback. Quarterback play is paramount, and whether you can win championships, paramount, and whether you can have consistent success. And I look at Carson Beck, and I always say, you're almost good. You're almost good enough. Like at Georgia, he was almost good enough. You thought after his first year as a starter, he would turn the corner and he would become the guy, the guy that I think everybody had been waiting for, the guy that you pay a lot of money to help push your program forward. And I look at him in Miami, same thing. This is the guy we paid a lot of money to push us forward, and I never got that from him. It never happened, and I don't know if it's a matter of talent. I believe it's partially talent. I believe it's partially how you see the game. And I just don't see the guy that was worth that kind of money. And I said it last week. I said, look, like Carson Beck is high floor, low ceiling. Like he's not awful, but I look at a lot of Miami games, and I said it last week and I'll say it again. Their losses fell on the heels of Carson Beck's shortcomings. That's just what it is. The multiple turnover games, that all falls on your quarterback, dog. And these are things that he struggled with even at Georgia, and why he wasn't a guy that could get them over the top there, and why they're still looking for that guy, right? It makes you appreciate a guy like Fernando Mendoza on the other end. You talk about a guy, Fernando Mendoza, that I believe sees the game very well at this stage of his career. Has full control. Feels like he's fully in control of the game as well. While he's playing, and you have a trust. I had a trust in him in that entire game. That I'm like, hey, look, there's got to be a point where a play has to get made that I am positive he's got to make the play. And I thought at times his receivers don't get enough credit. I don't believe Surratt, Cooper, Becker, those guys they were phenomenal. Omar Cooper in that game, absolutely phenomenal. Becker made some big catches as well. Surratt, when his name was called upon, made the play that needed to be made. But Carson Beck, even on the last throw at the end of the game, right? That's a throw that's been made in a national championship game before. You've seen that throw get made, and the quarterback puts that thing on a line and fits it through there. It's a great play by the defensive back. A cover 2 look. Nobody's threatening his zone. In that coverage, if nobody's threatening your zone as the corner, you sink. You get underneath that ball, safety help is over the top, you make that play. That's how that's supposed to go. If I go back to Tua's freshman year, the national championship game against Georgia, it's pretty damn similar. Where there's a 2-high shell coverage, there's a corner underneath, a safety on the hash, and he puts that thing on a line and scores the game-winning touchdown. And this is what we're saying is the difference between Carson Beck, a guy that is getting paid a lot of money at this stage of his career to help a college program, and what an NFL guy looks like. And not to say Carson Beck can't be an NFL guy. He can be, I think he can be an NFL guy in some capacity. I just don't think a starter capacity is what you'll be drafting Carson Beck to be. You hope for a good backup. And that is nothing wrong with that. I know everybody would love to think that, hey, simply going to get all the old guys out of the portal is going to make you a national championship contender. Now, what I tell you, it will help. But talent evaluation is always going to be heralded above all. And that goes for when you're recruiting high school kids. It goes for when you're grabbing older guys out of the portal. How can these guys fit? how can we mold them into the guys that we need them to be in order to have a successful season? And I believe that a lot of coaches leave that part behind. I think it's a lot easier now to just throw money at guys that you think, but you don't quite know how to utilize them in the way that they need to be utilized. If I'm, look, I know a lot of ADs around the country are going to be looking at their head coaches and saying, look, why can't you do this? What's happening? I don't believe everybody is as great as a talent evaluator as Curt Cignetti. That's the most underrated part of his game, is that I know the guys that I'm bringing in, and I know how to utilize these guys. I put forth a system. I've created a culture that all cultivates into making these guys better. And every coach doesn't have that. Every coach isn't blessed with that ability. Some of these guys are just great recruiters. So all they know how to do is go out on the road, convince the moms and the dads that, hey, look, we're going to take care of your son. We're going to make him into this. And voila. And they kind of underachieve. They kind of middle around, but they're so great at recruiting that you just keep the faith in that they'll figure it out. Cignetti is good at coaching. And see, that's the difference between a lot of these guys. See, that's what made Saban great. Being good at coaching. Recruiting is one thing. Can you coach is also another. Because every single guy that's coming through your program is turning into NFL caliber players that can have extensive careers, whether it be an all-pro level, whether it be a Pro Bowl level, or whether it just be a consistent pro that just always keeps a job. That comes from actual development within the program. And every program doesn't have that. And you start looking at, I look over at LSU, right? And LSU is going to be the program I pick on every time because they love to shove out the money, but you don't necessarily see the production in terms of talent each and every year. But we know there's a lot of talent within that area and within the guys that they're paying, but they don't necessarily have the best way of developing it, even with the access to it. So it all boils down to the individuals that you hire. And again, this game is been affected by everything around it, right? The recruiting services, the agents, which is just somebody's uncle at this point trying to get a payday. Everything is played a part, right? The transfer portal, NIL, all of these things. And what you can't forget is that, like, and Saban said it, like, you have people evaluating high school talent that don't coach, that didn't play. They're writers. These are writers that are giving out these stars on these recruiting services, making you believe a guy is truly a 4 or 5 star when in reality, a lot of it has to deal with their measurables in terms of just their sheer size and athleticism. Nothing to do with their on field ability. Like, a lot of times you'll see a guy get recruited because of the potential based off of his physical measurables. That's it. Nothing that has to do with on field play. No evaluation of what they actually do on the field. And then with everything in between with the NIL and everybody just throwing money at everyone with a name, you get guys that get overpaid that aren't nearly the talent or like the overall player that you would like them to be. They're the athlete, but they're not the player. So it ultimately boils down to, how do you spend your bread? You can have the bread, but how do you spend it? And I mean, credit to Indiana, they spend it wisely, and now they're national champions. That's it's what it is, y'all. But I'm your host, Shanti Stewart. This has been Gem Dropper Sports. And one final thing. We finally hit 200 subscribers. I wish I was doing this with my brothers right now. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to have people continuously subscribe, continuously listen. I don't understand how y'all do it, because it's just a bunch of guys that just love to talk sports. No real thought going in behind it other than we just like what we do. And so I appreciate any and everyone that has taken the time out to subscribe, any and everyone that consistently watches. The comments that I know I don't respond to a whole lot. The love and the critiques. I appreciate it all over here. And I just want to say thank y'all. Y'all have made this such a incredible journey. It's a very small feat because it's only 200 subscribers. Like, we know how this goes on YouTube, but I believe having 200 people that are willing to listen to you is something amazing to herald and something you should be proud of. And I appreciate you all for subscribing. I would never demean y'all and call y'all fans. I just call y'all supporters, bro, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So, with that being said, I'm your host, Shanti Stewart, and this time for real, I'm out.